The world is on edge tonight. The warning signs are everywhere. The question isn't whether we see them, it's whether we'll do anything before it's too late. Alliances are hardening. Rivalries are deepening. The space between peace and war is shrinking. That's not an opinion. That's not speculation. That is the reality unfolding right now across the globe. Oh, look at the map tonight. From Eastern Europe to the South China Sea, from the deserts of the Middle East to the waters around Taiwan.
The fault lines are there. They're not hidden anymore. They're not hidden anywhere. They're on the open, staring from the face.
Russia and Ukraine. It's not just a war on the ground. It's a war pulling in NATO, testing the very fabric of the West. Military shipments, tanks, missiles, billions of dollars in aid. Every move is watched. Every move is answered. One step closer, China and Taiwan. The drills are bigger. The flyovers are bolder. The warnings are louder. Beijing says Taiwan will be brought back by words or by force. The U.S. says it will defend the island. The question isn't if the lines are being drawn. The question is when they'll be crossed. In the Middle East, Iran pushing enrichment. Israel on edge. Proxy wars spilling into Yemen, Syria, Lebanon. Rockets, airstrikes, civilian lives lost. The old rivalries are not cooling. They're burning hotter. And listen to this. Global defense spending has just hit record highs. Trillions poured into weapons, ships, jets, nuclear arsenals. Nations aren't scaling back. They're gearing up. They're preparing not for peace, but for the possibility of something far worse. We've been here before. History shows us the pattern. Before World War I, sing. Tensions building. Leaders gambling. Each convinced the other side will blink, but no one blinks. And when no one blinks, humanity pays the price. Here's the truth. The space for dialogue is shrinking. The space for trust is shrinking. The space for compromise is shrinking. That gap, that fragile gap between peace and total war is narrowing every single day. And let's be honest, we feel it. We see it in the headlines, in the breaking alerts on our phones, in the images of refugees, of bombed out cities, of mothers clutching children under sirens. This isn't far away anymore. It's connected to us, to our gas prices, to our food supply, to our security. Ask yourself, if the world keeps moving like this, if alliances keep hardening, if rivalries keep deepening, what happens when the spark finally catches? What happens when a single miscalculation, a single missile, a single wrong move sets off the chain reaction? We cannot pretend this is business as usual. We cannot act like this is just another cycle of global tension. This is bigger. This is sharper. This is more dangerous. But here's the hope. This is not written in stone, not yet, because we still have choices. Leaders still have choices. People still have voices to demand dialogue, to demand restraint, to demand that someone somewhere pulls the world back from the cliff, because make no mistake, the cliff is right there. One wrong step and the world changes forever. So tonight, the truth is this. Alliances are hardening, rivalries are deepening, and the space... And the question that echoes tonight, who will take that step back before it's too late? What once felt unthinkable is now being openly discussed in the halls of power. That's the truth. That's the world we're living in tonight. Not long ago, the phrase World War III was the stuff of history books, conspiracy theories, or late-night arguments. Unthinkable. A nightmare scenario. Something leaders avoided even whispering about. But listen now. Listen closely. It's not just whispered, it's said out loud. In meetings, in press conferences, on the record, nuclear powers rattling their sabers. In Europe, Russia pours billions into its war machine. Even as its economy buckles under sanctions, Ukraine, armed with Western weapons, refuses to back down.
NATO nations, they're racing to rearm. Germany remilitarizing at a scale not seen in decades. Poland buying tanks by the hundreds.
The arms race is on, and it is not slowing. In Asia, China is building the largest navy in the world. Faster than anyone thought possible. Taiwan bracing, Japan rewriting its constitution to expand its military for the first time in generations. South Korea testing missiles of its own. The region is on edge and the arms are piling up. And then there's the Middle East, Iran enriching uranium, Israel preparing for the what if, Saudi Arabia cutting deals, proxy wars fought with weapons funneled from every corner of the globe, guns in the hands of militias, drones in the skies. Drones in the skies. The stockpiles grow, but the conversations shrink. We've seen this before. History has given us the warning labels. Before World War I, nations armed themselves to the teeth, convinced their strength would prevent war. Instead, it guaranteed it. Before World War II, the buildup was everywhere. Leaders told themselves they were preparing for defense, but they were paving the way for destruction. That's the pattern, that's the warning. And yet, here we are again. Leaders claiming weapons are for protection, that more missiles mean more safety, that building arsenals will keep the peace. But history tells us the opposite. When weapons pile high, when armies grow strong, when generals test new machines of war, the temptation to use them becomes too great. Here's the raw truth. The world is spending more on preparing for war than preparing for peace. And when you prepare for one more than the other, the outcome becomes inevitable. And let's not kid ourselves. The price is not measured in billions of dollars. The price is measured in lives, in families running from airstrikes, in children crying under rubble, in futures cut short because nations chose bombs over bridges. So what do we do with this truth? We face it, we name it. We hold our leaders accountable. We demand more than empty promises of deterrence. We demand investment in dialogue, in diplomacy, in peace. Because the arms race does not keep us safe. It pushes us closer to the brink, and the brink is closer than most want to admit. One wrong move, one miscalculation, one flashpoint, and all those weapons, all those billions, all that buildup is unleashed. And once unleashed, there is no going back. So tonight, the question is this: do we keep building weapons faster than we build trust? Do we keep walking the same road history has already warned us about? Or do we break the cycle before the cycle breaks us? Because the world is armed to the teeth, but talking barely at all. And if that doesn't change, history is ready to remind us again exactly where that road ends. The question is no longer if we see the warning signs, but whether we are willing to act on them. That's it. That's the truth staring us in the face tonight. The signs are everywhere. You don't need a degree in foreign policy to see them. You just need eyes. You just need to pay attention. A land war in Europe, a nuclear power threatening the West every single day. Refugees flooding across borders in numbers we haven't seen in decades. Those are warning signs. China circling Taiwan. Military drills bigger than ever. Warplanes crossing into contested airspace. U.S. carriers moving closer. Words turning sharper. Those are warning signs: the Middle East boiling again, Iran pushing its nuclear program for a strike. Militias firing rockets, drones buzzing in the night sky. Those are warning signs. And yet, we debate, we delay, we scroll past, we look away, as if the signs are not bright enough, as if history hasn't already shown us what happens when warnings are ignored. Before World War I, the signs were there. Military buildups, shifting alliances, assassinations, but leaders said the system would hold. It didn't. Before World War II, the signs were there. Invasion after invasion, broken treaties, rising dictators. But the world convinced itself it could wait. It couldn't. And the price was tens of millions of lives. We tell ourselves this time is different. That leaders are smarter now. That weapons are only for defense. That nuclear deterrence makes war impossible. But ask yourself, are those truths or are those excuses? Because the warning signs are here now, today, and the clock is ticking. We see cyber attacks knocking out grids. We see supply chains strangled by conflict. We see food shortages triggered by blockades in the Black Sea. We see the world economy shake with every missile strike. These aren't just warning signs of war. They're warnings of collapse, of lives disrupted everywhere, of families paying the price for leaders' failures. So here's the real question. What will we do? Not a they, not a leaders, us. Because the signs don't just demand awareness. They demand action. Action to hold governments accountable. Action to demand diplomacy. Action to refuse to accept that war is inevitable. Because it isn't. Not yet. But let's be raw. If nothing changes, if we keep waiting, watching, shrugging, then war does become inevitable. Because ignoring warning signs doesn't make them go away. It makes them stronger. It gives the momentum. And eventually, they become unstoppable. That's the moment we feel. The moment we say, how did this happen? But the answer will be obvious. It happened because we saw the signs and did nothing. So tonight, the choice is clear. We can keep treating the warning signs like background noise. Or we can face them for what they are: red lights flashing, sirens blaring, history screaming at us to wake up. Because peace is not passive. Peace takes work. Peace takes courage. Peace takes speaking up before it's too late. The question is no longer if we see the warning signs. We do. The question is whether we're willing to act before those signs become the story of our time. And history is waiting to write the answer.
The world has not been this close to the edge in generations. And every move on the global chessboard matters. That's not fear-mongering. That's fact.
Tonight, we stand at a crossroads. On one side, peace, fragile but possible. On the other, conflict, catastrophic and unstoppable. And right now, the distance between those two paths is razor thin. Look at Europe. Russia's war in Ukraine grinds on. A 21st century land war in the middle of the continent. Bombs falling on cities. Millions displaced. NATO shipping in weapons, aid, intelligence. And every shipment, every strike, every response pulls the rest of the world closer to that edge. One miscalculation and the conflict doesn't stay contained. It explodes. Look at Asia, China pushing harder, faster, Taiwan bracing for the unthinkable. The United States promising to defend it. Warships face to face in contested waters. Fighter jets screaming across borders, each maneuver a message. Each maneuver a risk. This is the edge. Look at the Middle East. Iran pushing its nuclear program forward. Israel warning it won't allow it. Proxy battles raging in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon. 5 rated. Airstrikes answered, no one blinking. This is the edge. And what's happening behind the scenes? Leaders in war rooms. Generals at maps. Calculations made on paper, but with consequences written in blood. Every move on this global chessboard carries weight. Every move either buys us time or pushes us closer to war. The truth is, the edge isn't far away anymore. It's right here under our feet. And history shows us what happens when nations ignore it. Before World War I, the world convinced itself the alliances and the buildup would hold back conflict. They did. Before World War II, the world convinced itself that appeasement and delay would keep the peace. It didn't. The edge has always been there, and every generation that ignored it paid a price too great to measure. But here's the difference now. The arsenals are bigger. The destruction is immediate. One wrong move today isn't just a war. It's a catastrophe on a scale humanity has never seen. And yet, the edge is where we're standing. We feel it in our news alerts. We see it in the images of cities bombed out, families fleeing, leaders warning of consequences like never before. The signs aren't subtle. They're flashing. They're deafening. The world is on edge and still the chess pieces move. So the question is this: will we learn from history or will we repeat it? Will we act like every move matters, or we pretend the board is just a game? Because it's not a game, it's lives, it's futures, it's our children. It's whether the world we hand them is stable or shattered. This moment calls for courage, for leadership, for citizens who demand more than excuses, who refuse to accept sleepwalking toward disaster. Because if we don't speak now, if we don't act now, we will wake up one morning and realize the edge is behind us and the fall has already begun. The world has not been this close to the edge in generations. That is the truth. Every move on this chessboard matters. And tonight, the future depends on who makes the next one.